So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. The idea behind this lecture series is very simple. We want you to cover your current affairs and we want you to cover them on a daily basis. But the thing is that you can't spend your entire day just reading the newspaper. You need time for other parts of your UPSC syllabus as well. Therefore, for your facility, we will cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes so that you're left with your entire day for covering other parts of UPSC syllabus. Now, just watching this lecture would be job half done because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well. Why, you ask? Well, revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us along with this lecture, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram platform is provided in the comment section below this lecture. You just have to click on that link. It will take you to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download the notes for this lecture and do the necessary revision. All right. That's enough as far as introduction goes. Let's straight away begin with today's discussion. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So here's the list. Topic number 1 is MSME definition revised. The definition of MSMEs, which industries would be called micro, which will be called small, which will be called medium. Okay, this categorization of industries. Well, the criteria for this categorization has been revised recently. So we'll talk about the older criteria as well as the new criteria. Then, recently, Commerce Ministry has levied anti-dumping duties on Chinese imports. So what are anti-dumping duties? Why are they levied? What are their advantages? We'll talk about all of this. Then recently, Supreme Court, well, actually last year, Supreme Court basically admitted a petition from Association for Democratic Reforms, which said that Election Commission should publicly publish Form 17C results. Now, what is Form 17C? We'll talk about this. Then another article was published in the Indian Express newspaper, which talked about secret sessions of parliament. So what are secret sessions of parliament? What are the constitutional provisions related to that? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about UNESCO's Challenger 150 initiative. Okay, what is Challenger 150 initiative and what are its advantages? So these are the 5 topics that we'll focus our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number 1, which is MSME definition revised. Now look, there are 2 types of industries in our country. Okay, one we call large industries, and the other category is that of MSME. Okay, M stands for micro, S stands for small, M stands for medium, and well, E stands for enterprises. Okay, now which industry would be micro, which industry would be called small, which industry would be called medium? Well, there is a specific criteria set up by the government. Now that criteria is twofold. Okay, whenever you have to categorize a particular industry, you look at their investment in factory, plant and machinery, and you also look at their annual turnover. Annual turnover means how much revenue they have earned in 1 year. So based on these 2 factors, you either categorize an industry as micro, small, medium or large, right? Now, if we take a look at the older classification or the current classification, okay, any enterprise which has invested up to 1 crore and whose annual turnover is up to 5 crore is categorized as micro enterprise. Okay, any industry which has invested up to 10 crores and has an annual turnover of 50 crores, small, and medium enterprises investment up to 50 crores and annual turnover of 250 crores. So if an industry is earning around 250 crores, it's not a large enterprise, it's still a medium enterprise. Now, from 1st April 2025, these limits, these thresholds would be changed. So from 1st April 2025 onwards, A micro enterprise would be the one whose investment is up to 2.5 crore and turnover up to 10 crores. For small, it is 25 crore investment and 100 crore turnover. And for medium, it's 125 crore investment and 500 crore turnover. This classification is important because, well, you need to identify which industries are micro, which are small, which are medium, so that you can design policies for these specific industries. Okay. And MSME sector is an important sector. Why? Well, thing is, MSME sector is the second largest employer in our country after agriculture. Agriculture employs the most people, then the next is MSME sector. Plus 40% of your exports, okay, are from MSME sector. So MSME sector is crucial. Clear? And to manage MSME sector, we have a specially dedicated ministry also, because this sector is very crucial. All right. Now that's all you need to know as far as this news item is concerned, because this is the only thing that the government has announced. From 1st April onwards, this new categorization or criteria would be enforced. All right. Okay. Now let's move forward to second news item, which is anti-dumping duties. Now, what are anti-dumping duties? Look, the thing is, India imports a lot of things, okay? And we import from different countries. Let's suppose we import goods from China. Now, let's suppose the thing is that there is this particular good. Let's suppose there is this pen, okay? Now, the price of this pen in India, okay? Indians who are producing this pen, they produce it for 10 rupees. Let's suppose this is the price. So one particular pen in India, when it is produced in India by domestic industrialists, they sell it for 10 rupees. Okay. Now this pen is also produced in China. Okay. And China deliberately keeps the selling price of this pen very low. Let's suppose China sells this pen at 5 rupees. Now what happens? What happens is that if China is selling this pen at 5 rupees, India will be importing this pen. Now, pen made by Indians would cost 10 rupees and pens made by Chinese manufacturers would cost 5 rupees. Naturally, all the people in India would buy this 5 rupee pen, right? So through this, basically China is trying to eliminate our domestic industry, right? By selling this price or selling this pen at extremely low prices, at prices lower than normal value. So what does India do to combat this? India levies a tax or a special type of import duty or custom duty. Let's suppose India says that any import from China for this pen, okay, will attract 5 rupee custom duty. So if you're importing this 5 rupee pen, you have to pay 5 rupees as custom duty to Government of India. Okay. Now, you will sell this price because you have imported this from China. You have given 5 rupees to China and you have given 5 rupees to Indian government. So your cost is 10 rupees. So you'll sell this in India at 10 rupees. Now, Indian pen and Chinese pen would be priced equally, and now there will be fair competition, right? This term, fair competition, is important because it is an important principle of WTO. Okay. So now it will be fair competition. Now this duty, this extra custom duty, is known as anti-dumping duty. Okay. You understood the whole point. So this is known as anti-dumping duty, and it is basically levied to ensure fair competition in a country and to protect domestic industries from dumping by countries like China. Okay, because if China is selling this pen at extremely low prices, then it is basically dumping this good in India, so that to eliminate Indian pen manufacturers. Right? Now, let's take a look at what was in the news. So India has imposed anti-dumping duties on 5 Chinese goods, including aluminium foil, to protect domestic industries from the impact of cheaper imports from neighboring countries. Okay. Anti-dumping duties. What is the definition of anti-dumping duties? These are taxes imposed on imported goods in order to compensate for the difference between their export price and normal value, fair value. So the fair value of this pen was 10 rupees, but China was selling it at 5 rupees. Okay, export price was 5 rupees. So to compensate for this difference, government levies a tax, and that tax is known as anti-dumping duty. Now, the thing is, anti-dumping duties are permissible under WTO. Fair competition. Now, fair competition means that no one should be allowed to dump their goods in one particular country. But WTO says that yes, anti-dumping duties are permissible. Of course they are. But you have to be sure whether a particular country is dumping goods into you. So you can apply anti-dumping duties only after investigation. Okay. And if the results of the investigation are that yes, China is actually dumping goods, then you can apply anti-dumping duties. Now, anti-dumping duties have many benefits. Okay. That's why India applied them. One is protection of domestic industries, then preservation of jobs in India, because if these domestic industries would close down, jobs would go from India. Maintaining fair competition, okay, supporting fair trade practices, trade should be fair, protecting intellectual property is also one of them, okay, intellectual property rights, basically patent copyrights, stimulating domestic production so that Indian industries are benefited, and promoting economic stability. So these are the advantages of anti-dumping duties. Now, if we talk about India, okay, or we talk about these anti-dumping investigations, well, what is the procedure in India? Okay, so anti-dumping probe or investigation. So a product is considered to be dumped when a producer exports his product at price lower than its value in the domestic market. So if China is selling this product at very low prices, prices lower than even fair value, okay, then it shall be considered as dumping. Now, to ascertain whether this is dumping or not, you have to conduct anti-dumping probe. Now, in India, this investigation is done by Director General of Trade Remedies, which is under Commerce Ministry. And anti-dumping duty is also permissible under WTO under Article 6 of General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs under WTO. So remember this fact, that anti-dumping duties are permissible under Article 6 of GATT, which is under WTO. Now, apart from anti-dumping, there is another duty that is levied on imports, okay, and that is known as countervailing duties. Now, in your exam, you might be asked to differentiate between anti-dumping and countervailing duties because both of them seem similar. So, anti-dumping and countervailing duties are trade remedies designed to protect domestic industries from unfair trade practices. Now, anti-dumping duties targets imports sold at prices below their normal value, which is dumping, while countervailing duties address imports benefiting from government subsidies. So if India realizes that the reason why China is able to sell this pen at 5 rupees is because Chinese government is giving a lot of subsidies to the pen manufacturers of their country. So to compensate for those subsidies, India will levy a tax. Okay. So countervailing duties are there levied to counter the effect of subsidies which are used to artificially lower the price, and anti-dumping is levied when the price is lower than fair market value. Both of them can be applied together also, and CVDs are also permissible under WTO. All right, just remember this. Okay, now let's move on to news item number 3, which is electoral reforms and Form 17. Now, thing is that in 2024, Supreme Court basically admitted a petition. Okay. And that petition was admitted or was basically presented by Association of Democratic Reforms. Okay, ADR. Now they were saying that Election Commission of India should make the results of Form 17 public. This petition was admitted in Supreme Court, and when Supreme Court asked Election Commission what is their stand with respect to that, so Supreme Court said that we won't do it. We won't release the result of Form 17 publicly, 17C, because we are not legally obliged to do so. Election Commission said that the results of or the findings of Form 17C are shared with political parties or their polling agents. Okay, there is no obligation on us to release this information on our website publicly, so we won't do it. Okay, now the thing is, for understanding what this controversy is all about, well, you need to know what Form 17C is. Okay, so let's talk about this Form 17C. So Form 17C is a two-part document mandated under Conduct of Election Rules 1961 and must be filed at every polling station. So every polling booth will have Form 17C, which has to be filled by the officer in charge over there. Now, Form 17C has two parts. Part 1 contains booth-wise data on votes recorded. Okay, how many EVMs were used, how many votes were recorded, all this information shall be filled in Form 17C Part 1. This information shall be filled by the presiding officer after polling. And Part 2 is filled on the counting day, vote counting day. Booth-wise data on results of counting filed by returning officer on the counting day. Okay, now this entire data in this Form 17C is provided to political parties or their polling agent. Now, the significance of this Form 17C is that it contains booth-wise data. It contains data with respect to votes and results at every booth. Okay. Now, Association of Democratic Reform says that if you really want to ensure transparency in India with respect to election results and elections, and if you really want people to have more trust in the election process, well, then release the results of these Form 17C in public. Okay, you should do it. Let's do it. But Election Commission says no, we won't do it. The reason is, under this conduct of election rules, we are told that you have to just share these results or share these findings with the polling agents of political parties. You don't need to publish them out in the public. Okay. Plus, Election Commission says that there are over 10.5 lakh polling stations in the previous elections. The data in all these forms is humongous. We can't release all of that on our website. Okay. So it's a big challenge. Nonetheless, ADR says, and many opposition parties say, that you need to release the results of Form 17C in public. Why? They say this will ensure booth level transparency and increase public trust in EVM based elections. This would also allow us to cross verify final vote counts with recorded turnout. Plus, it will prevent post poll manipulation. So, this will make the process more transparent and trustworthy. That is their argument. But what is the argument given by Election Commission? Why are they refusing to do so? Well, their argument is fourfold. First of all, they say they have no legal obligation, so they are not bound by law to do this. Okay. Then they say if we release all of this data on social media, well, this data can be misused. Many people will share screenshots, morph the images, and circulate them online and spread fake news. So, this is the reason. Plus, Form 17C does contain the results of EVM. That's true. Okay, but it does not contain the results of postal ballots. So, this would again be an issue. Plus, logistics and practical difficulties. More than 10 lakh polling booths are there. We cannot publish the entire data online. Okay, so these are the arguments given by Election Commission of India. All right, that's all you need to know. Now let's come to last topic of the day, which is second last, secret session of Parliament. So look, the proceedings of Lok Sabha, the lower house of Parliament, are live streamed on Sansad TV and a record is also maintained on website. But in India, there is a provision, constitutional provision, which allows Parliament to basically meet in secret, to hold secret sittings. If there is an issue which needs to be discussed, which is of national importance and it needs to be kept confidential, well, Parliament allows, or Constitution allows Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha to hold secret sittings. Okay. So far, these secret sittings have never been held. Okay. In fact, during the 1962 war between India and China, Opposition party members were asking Jawaharlal Nehru, the then Prime Minister, to hold secret sessions because they needed to discuss some important issues related to the war. But Nehru categorically refused. He said that Parliament is a public place, it's a public institution, and we shouldn't hide anything from the public. So, for more transparency, we shouldn't have secret sittings. Okay, but there is a provision to have secret sittings. Now, what are the constitutional provisions? Article 118 of the Constitution says that Parliament can frame rules with respect to secret sittings, and Parliament has framed rules. Okay, rules of procedure and conduct of business in Lok Sabha has one rule, rule number 248, which contains the procedures to have these secret sittings. Clear? So, Parliament Constitution allows the Parliament to have these secret sittings. Now, what are the features of these secret sittings? Well, no visitors. Generally, in parliamentary sessions, visitors, outsiders are allowed. In this, no visitors are allowed. Okay. The proceedings are recorded, but they can only be published with speaker's approval. And if anyone, whether a member of parliament, member of the staff, or anyone, discloses the discussions of this secret sitting in public, well, that would be considered breach of privilege and he can be punished for that. Okay. Now, generally, media houses, newspapers in India have permission to report factually correct information with respect to parliamentary proceedings. But Article 361A categorically says that this protection to media houses is not extended when it comes to secret sittings. So they can report freely about normal parliamentary sittings, but not secret sittings. Okay, that's the thing. Clear? Okay. Now let's move on to last topic of the day, which is UNESCO's Challenger 150 initiative. So why this was in the news? So a team of scientists may have discovered dozens of new species, including giant sea spiders, octopi, corals on the newly exposed seafloor left behind the enormous A84 iceberg that broke away from George 6 ice shelf. The thing is that Antarctica has a lot of frozen ice. We all know about it, right? It has a lot of frozen stuff. But because of global warming, a lot of ice sheets are melting. Okay. One such ice sheet that melted and broke away was George 6 ice shelf. Now, scientists, researchers, because this ice sheet melted itself, they were able to investigate what was below this ice sheet in the deep sea. And they found new species that were not discovered so far, and new ecosystems. Okay, so this has enhanced our scientific knowledge with respect to life in deep sea. Clear? Now, the breakaway of 510 square kilometer iceberg, which was basically 2.5 times the size of Kolkata, gave us access to an underwater world that was previously beyond human reach. Now, this mission comes under Challenger 150 mission, which is sponsored by UNESCO. Okay, we'll talk about Challenger 150 mission. Okay, Challenger 150 program is part of UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development 2021-2030. What is this program? Well, under this program, researchers all over the world, scientists all over the world would collaborate to explore and conserve deep ocean life and ecosystems. This initiative aligns with Sustainable Development Goal number 14, which is life below water. So remember this fact. And also remember the geographical location of, well, George 6 ice shelf. Okay, you can look it up in the atlas, in the map. This is George 6 ice shelf. So situated in George 6 Sound, which is basically ice sheet below two islands of Antarctica, separating Alexander Island from Palmer Island, adjacent to Bellingshausen Sea. Its governance falls under Antarctic Treaty System. Yeah, remember this. The entire continent of Antarctica is not the sovereign territory of any country. No country can say that Antarctica belongs to us. Antarctica belongs to the entire world. So all countries can do research there, but the land doesn't belong to any one particular country. Now, how will this land be governed? For that, there is an international treaty called Antarctic Treaty. Okay, and George 6 ice shelf comes under that treaty. It is rich in floating ice shells, subglacial ecosystems, and complex underwater geography. That's all you need to know. Now, what were the findings of this George 6 ice shelf that was investigated? Okay. So you discovered new species like giant phantom jellyfish and octopus, sponges, sea spiders. New ecosystems were discovered. Now, scientists were really amazed that how can life be sustained so deep in the ocean, because no energy gets or gets access, or basically there is no way energy, solar energy, can reach these places, deep sea, because sun's light doesn't reach there, and sun's light is basically the source of all energy on the earth. Okay, the presence of complex life in the absence of known nutrient sources suggests unknown nutrient transport pathways which we have not investigated so far. Okay, so basically it's a great scientific progress. Our knowledge about deep sea ecosystems has been enhanced. That's all you need to know. Okay, and with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it would add more value if you revise this lecture as well. So please do not forget to do that. And I would sign out on that note with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.